Perfect.
What is going on, everybody? The tables have been set. Super Bowl 54 is here, and I'm your observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri, welcoming you back to Trench Warfare. We are going to take a look at the Kansas City Chiefs and their offensive line's dominant performance over the Tennessee Titans in the AFC title game, and break down the final drive before the half that gave the Chiefs the lead for good, showing you that the Hogs inside in the trenches were able to get it done once again for the Kansas City Monster, giving them their first Super Bowl appearance in over 50 years. Now let's take a look at the starting lineups. For the Kansas City Chiefs, at left tackle, Eric Fisher. At left guard, Andrew Wylie. At center, Austin Reiter. At right guard, Laurent DUVERNAY-TARDIF. And at right tackle, Mitchell Schwartz. All right, so here we go. We're starting off this 2-minute drive with 1:51 left at their 14-yard line. Kansas City Chiefs need to get the ball all the way down the field to score a touchdown, to take the lead. And to start off this drive, you see that the offensive line creates a pretty solid pocket for Patrick Mahomes. And this is something that you're going to see regularly throughout this drive. This offensive line was absolutely magnificent in how they took care of the quarterback, gave him space to step up into the pocket, gave him the ability to run and use his feet if he needed to. And in the end, if you can't get a pass rush on the quarterback in a 2-minute drill, then this is the type of thing that can happen. Quarterback can do a lot of damage. But let's take a look at the offensive line from the end zone cut. And you can see here that they're going up against what appears to be a 3-down lineman with 2 linebackers buzzed up. They end up rushing 4. But let's take a look at the tackles here. As you can see, 72 gets a very good set here. He's in good position, has his hands ready to strike. He's inside out on his defender, and his feet are a little bit staggered, which could be better. He could have a little bit wider base there. But, you know, for every lineman, it's a little bit different how they set. So I'm not going to fault him so much for that. Looking at the right tackle, he has a good set here. He's in good position. But one thing I don't like is that his hands are down by his waist, not ready to strike. And it appears that he's not very aware that there is actually a defensive line stunt that's coming his way. Looks like it's going to be a TE stunt here. And he doesn't appear to be fully aware of that. Now, that can get you in trouble if your guard's not on top of his game. Luckily for him here, his guard was actually in excellent position, actually sent him over to him really well, flattened that defensive tackle out really nicely, and it allowed them to take on that game and to get it handled correctly without having much of a problem. But, you know, a good defensive line that can get at a tackle's hips like that penetrator wants to there can cause a lot of damage. Now, again, like I said, 76 has great awareness here. He sees that there is a bit of a wide loop to that defensive tackle's rush, and he catches on pretty quickly that it's a penetrating stunt and that defensive end is going to come looping around back towards him. So he puts that defensive tackle on his right tackle pretty well here, and that's a pretty good job. And then you look at the interior with 61 and 62, the left guard and the center. These guys have their guy locked up. They have him settled down right there to hold the depth of the pocket to allow the quarterback some room to step up in. Overall, just a very good job. Even though 71 wasn't fully aware of the game, he had his guy, his right guard there to pick up the slack, make sure that he's on him well. And they end up having a pretty good pocket here, and it allows for them to make an explosive play out of this. So the offensive line did their job, and they did it well. And you can see here that they passed the game off really nicely. 76 did a good job of putting that defensive tackle on 71, and then he was able to arrange himself back into position to take on that defensive end looping around. But look at that. That's just a beautiful pocket. That's what you want to see if you're an offensive line coach. You see your guys put in that kind of work, and it leads to an explosive play. So good job there for the guys in the trenches. Now let's take a look at the second play, 1:43 left on their 31-yard line. They're on the move here. They're down by 3. Obviously need to get the ball down the field. And it's going to be squarely on the offensive line to make sure that they keep the quarterback protected. We're in an empty set here. And from this initial look, it looks like the pocket is solid, but it also seems like there could be a little bit of leakage off of the edges. So we'll have to take a look at the end zone film to get a better understanding of how these guys were able to handle those blocks. Because when you're in a situation like this, it can be, a little bit hectic at first, but the main goal for those tackles is to make sure that if they do have leakage off the edge, that they're able to push that upfield so that the quarterback can step up into the pocket because of the depth that his interior gives him. Now let's look at the left tackle here. 72's in good position. He has a good set. His punch is actually pretty well timed here, but he has to fight to maintain that position with his feet. Looks like he's crossing over just a little bit, which again, I'm not going to fault him so much for that, because in these situations, things are moving fast and you have to be able to do whatever you can do to keep those guys from getting leakage towards the quarterback. But overall, he's got good control of his set. And at the right tackle spot here, 71 also does an excellent job with his set and his position. He got good depth with each set, and his punch against the D end is actually pretty solid here. He does a good job of sending that D end up the field, maintaining that width of the pocket, which is the main goal in a 2-minute drill like this, when these guys are teeing off and running as fast as they can to try and get off your edge. But I think both the tackles did a pretty good job here of keeping their guys outside and then finishing them up the field so that the quarterback has comfortable space to step into. And also looking here at the interior, I actually thought that while he did have good position, 76 had a bad set here. He kind of widened his base when he was trying to set, and he leaned with his punch, which allowed the defensive tackle to actually hit him with a quick swim move. And this defensive tackle in particular, Jurrell Casey, that is his go-to move. He loves to jab inside and then bounce outside with the swim move. Got to be aware for that. He got to 76's edge here, but luckily for him, 62 was in great position and was ready to help him. Got over the top of it once he saw that he was beat and was able to secure his block by helping 76 by taking over that block on Jurrell Casey. But Jurrell Casey is a Pro Bowl defensive tackle for a reason. That's one of his favorite moves. He was able to get it to work here on 76. But again, that's the reason why you have slide help. And 62 was great to be aware enough to get to the other side of that to clean up that block for him, as you can see there at the end. Now here we are with the first third down of this drive, 3rd and 3 on the Tennessee side of the field. And when you look at the pocket here to start this play, it's actually a pretty good pocket. There is a little bit of pressure coming off of that left side of the line, but really there is so much good going on with this pocket that Mahomes is able to step up, move wide, do whatever he needs to do to get in position to make a play for his team. So that pressure is really not of much consequence. You can see there that the left tackle does a good job pushing that guy up the field. But let's look at the end zone cut here. And again, I think, like I said earlier in this drive, you've got a lot of good work going on with this offensive line and controlling that D line of Tennessee. 72 actually has a really great set here, I thought he did a good job setting deep, had a great punch, great extension, and he was in full control of this block throughout the entirety of this drop back. Even though that guy is threatening slightly from the edge, there's not a real threat there for a sack, because he's able to stay on the block and keep the pressure on the defensive end, pushing him up the field. And of course, you look at the rest of the offensive line, they've got these guys bunched up, not much of anything coming from the defense in terms of pressure, in terms of push, and it just gives Patrick Mahomes all the space he needs to get his job done and get the ball off without having much of a hassle. But really good job by the offensive line here once again. And I think it just goes to show that these guys have a great understanding of the D-line they're going up against, and they're able to play against these fronts and handle any kind of games, any kind of tricks that the Titans are trying to use, and they're able to just continue their movement down the field. Now here we are with 40 seconds left in the half. The Chiefs are on the 27-yard line of the Titans, and this would be the position where you would expect the defense to try and bring something a little bit harder, to try and put a little bit more pressure on Patrick Mahomes. They don't end up doing that, which actually costs them dearly, because in most of this drive, Mahomes has had enough time to do whatever he wanted to do. Now in this play, they end up getting an incompletion, but that's more on Mahomes realizing that there wasn't anybody really open. And even though he steps up in the pocket and does begin to scramble, there wasn't really any kind of true pressure on him to get outside and try and make a play. That's just something that he puts on by himself. Now, looking here from the end zone film, you can take a look at what's going on with our tackles. I think that when you start with the left tackle here, he's in good position. He's got a solid punch on his defensive end, but he does make his block a little bit harder with low hands. He gets underneath with his punch, but he is able to settle himself back down at the right tackle spot. I think this is, again, another result of having your hands low, of having your hands not in the ready position to strike. His hands are low. He gets the bull rush from the defensive end. He's able to regather himself, get his hands back inside, and sit on that block. But initially, he was giving up some push because he was late with his hands, which, as I've said in many of these videos, when you have your hands low, your hands are usually late. And that's what we have here with our right tackle. Now, when you look at the interior of the line, these guys are mainly in help positions. 76 and 61 at the left guard and right guard positions are more in positions to help here. And if you're taking a look at what 76 is doing, he's got his eyes to his right tackle to make sure that he can be there to help in case of any type of inside threat. But also, I think he needs to square up a little bit here, keep an eye towards 54, because in some situations, even though it's a spy, that linebacker can tend to add on. That's something that Houston loves to do, to add on that guy late to try and put pressure on the quarterback. But I think he's fine here otherwise. 61 also good in help, has himself arranged to help both his tackle and his center if there's any kind of stunt that goes on with those defensive linemen. But again, just another situation where these guys are all taking care of one another and making sure that they have position and have leverage on the defensive linemen that they're going against. So overall, again, great job by Kansas City's O-line, getting the job done well in the trenches. Okay, so here we go. This is the last play of this drive right before the half. Kansas City trying to take the lead, and everyone knows what happens on this play. It's an extraordinary effort by Patrick Mahomes himself, but let's take a look at how his offensive line sets him up, gives him the ability to actually make this kind of play happen. That pocket looks beautiful. They have this whole defensive line gathered up in the middle with the defensive end trying to make his rush off the edge, but it's not happening because your left tackle is shoving him far up the field, moving him past where he wants to go to be able to put pressure on the quarterback. And again, when you talk about the kind of play that Patrick Mahomes made here, the individual effort obviously is amazing, but a lot of that wouldn't be possible if he didn't have the ability to step up in the pocket to be able to make a kind of play that he's able to make with his legs. Now let's look at it from the end zone. As you're going to see here, a lot of communicating going on with the O-line, making sure that everybody knows who they have, and a great set and punch by 72. I think this was his best set of the entire drive. He's in good position. He doesn't give up too much with how he sets his arms. We're doing a little bit too much in his set, waving them back and forth. You want to have an economy of motion. That's what the O-line coach from Kansas City, Andy Heck, would say in that meeting room. I know that because Andy Heck was my offensive line coach for 6 years in Jacksonville, and he's now the O-line coach here in Kansas City. So I know exactly what he would be saying in terms of that set. Great set, but let's try not to do too much moving around with those arms so that they're ready to strike. But he does a great job here of getting in position, getting himself on that defensive end, and getting his hands in the position to make sure that guy's pushed up the field throughout the course of that set. And then you just look at the rest of the O-line, and they're just doing a very good job of maintaining the depth of the pocket, not giving up any ground to the defensive line. It's just a dominant blocking effort overall. And what does that allow for our superstar quarterback to do? It allows him to step up in the pocket. It allows him to scramble out to the left and make the kind of amazing play that we all know that Patrick Mahomes can make. So overall here, the O-line does an amazing job at making sure that their quarterback has the room to work that he needs, and it ends up giving them the lead for good in this game. And as you all know now, Kansas City is heading to the first Super Bowl in 50 years, and this play is a big part of why that happened. Excellent job, and kudos to the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll be seeing them in the Super Bowl. Now that's everything here at Trench Warfare. I really appreciate everybody who's checked out this video. Make sure you hit the like button if you haven't already done so, and subscribe to the observant lineman Uche Nwaneri, and I will catch you all on the next video. Peace. Peace.